What if I was going to tell you I could teach you 7 different types of conversations and you will never be in a situation where you won't know what to do or say? Would you be interested in knowing that? So the first conversation is a conversation of relatedness or rapport. And this is one of the first conversations where you have with a person. For instance, you may have a sales meeting that you have, or you may have a meeting with a person that you've never met, or someone in the elevator or a networking event. You have to have techniques to build rapport, to understand where they're coming from. And so what we use is a technique where we have a picture and then we translate that picture into the question. So I'll share that picture with you. So what you do is you imagine a nameplate, and on top of that nameplate, you imagine a house, right? Out of the chimney is a work glove, a white work glove that's grabbing an airplane. The airplane is an old-fashioned 1950 airplane. Its propellers are tennis rackets, and what's holding the propellers are light bulbs. When you meet with someone, the first question you could ask is the nameplate. What's your name? The house could be, where do you live? And if you put kids coming out of the windows of the house, then you could say, hey, do you have any kids? Or how's your family? Where are you originally from? So the next conversation is the white work glove is, where do you work? And so what you could also then say is, as a bridge to kind of get into some other activities, you say, hey, do you travel much with your job or by your, on your own? And are you a type of person that takes your tennis rackets to your vacations, or do you do sports? That's kind of a real quick way to have a quick intro. You could go back and forth on it. You could start at work, get the name, you go for the house, and it's just a way to open up a conversation. The second type of conversation is a conversation for possibility. This is a conversation where you're just talking about different concepts. You get together, you have an idea to do something with a friend. You're not getting to action. You're not getting to a plan. You just want to brainstorm. You just want to toss some things back and forth. One that I use that's very instrumental, I use mind mapping. I use something called Mind Master. I'll say, let's have a Mind Master process where actually you'll say a concept, I'll put it in the center, and then I'll draw a little relationship to this, to that. For instance, let's say we're going to be building a building, and I want to just brainstorm architect. So then the architect could lead to design this, and you kind of connect all these dots. This is what I do when I start out systems. I'll do a mind map. I won't understand. I'll say, what are all the relationships related? Like for instance, when I started blogging, I looked at, well, what are the strong things that I have? What Bennett Santana's core here. What am I? I'm certified here. I'm trained in here. I do this here. And guess what? All these little branches will lead to a bigger picture. That's just one way to engage the conversation of possibility. There's many other ways, but you definitely need to know 1 or 2 or 3 different ways to brainstorm for you to then execute in that conversation. So the next conversation is a conversation of opportunity. And opportunity is where you're going to take your brainstorming ideas and you're going to lay out a foundation. It's a conversation that defines the strategic goals. You're going to look at milestones, objectives. You're going to break those key things down. You're going to look at key success factors, key success indicators. And this is the level where you start laying the plan out. You lay it out strategically. You lay it out tactically. You're going to lay out the to-do items, to-do list at this level. No matter how detailed it is, you'll use some tools. We use a tool called Mondays. Mondays is what helps us with this conversation of opportunity. Once you lay that out, you could then decide who does what. You could break it up into who's responsible. You could also write down what are the due dates, conditions of satisfaction, what are the critical elements, which ones do you have to do first, what's on they call it the critical path, which is really what it's all, how you assemble everything together. There may be some items that doesn't relate to the endpoint, but you still have to do it. And then you put it all together, and this is how you create your plan. This is called the conversation of opportunity. So the next conversation is obviously one of the most important conversations, and this is where basically fails for a lot of business owners. So you have a plan, you have a tactical item, and so then you start assigning it to people, and some of them get done and some of them don't. So you have to understand the conversation for action, the key components. The key components are really just three key components in the conversation for action. Is what's the objective, right? When is it due? And what are the conditions of satisfaction? That's what you should be asking. Every time when someone says, can you do this for me? You got to stop and say, what's the objectives? What do you want from me? What is it that you need from me? Second, when is it due? And third, what are the conditions that will satisfy your request? That's just the 3 parts. If you start to operate in this, you'll start to produce action. This is where action happens. And so there has to be sort of set rules in related to this. Like set rules that we have is that when you make a commitment, if you can't keep the commitment, please come back and renegotiate it before it's due. Now, if you don't renegotiate and the deadline passes, then I have to hold you in indignancy. I'll be indignant. So I have to hold you accountable. I don't want to do that. Why don't you just come back to me before it's due and renegotiate? That it's so simple. It just is life. Say, hey, this was my due date. It was due this day. I won't be able to get it to you till Wednesday. Sometimes that's okay. Sometimes it's not okay. But at least you can let the manager know. It's, hey, and what the manager will say is, can you get it done if I gave you 3 people to do it? Right? It's not personal. It's nothing personal. It's just, you're just engaging the other person in a conversation for action. The better you are in conversation for action, the better you will be in getting results. And I will tell you, the more money you'll make. Because if you're a person that gets action done, I'll tell you, you will make money. The next conversation is conversation for breakdown. Guess what? Breakdowns happen. Challenges happen, frustrations happen. So you want to have an ability to communicate when a conversation is for breakdown. And at our company, the first element related to this is every frustration of a lack of a system. So if there's a breakdown, I look at, is there a system? I don't look at the person. So you have to have a process in place. It's a process that identifies the issue. It's a process that prioritizes how to solve the issue. You do a root cause analysis. You're looking at this information and you're trying to gain understanding, empathy with the person that's having the problem. And so we have a process that's called the OFI process, Opportunity for Improvement, that looks at what's the situation, what the quick fix, what's the short-term solution, what's the long-term solution, and evaluation. That's part of the opportunity for improvement. Now, for instance, in customer service, you go into any coffee shop, Dunkin' Donuts, for instance, they'll have a thing on the board that'll say how to work with the customer complaints. You acknowledge them, you try to fix it. You'll see it up on the wall. It's their conversation for breakdown. It happens all over the place. There's always a breakdown. Wrong order, this. What happens? I apologize. This is what I did to resolve it, so forth. I learned this from a large company called Electronic Data Systems when I worked with them at a major oil company. And when they would implement a solution and something happened, something went haywire, something that just went really bad, they would say, write a letter to the CIO and it would say like this: we apologize for what happened. It won't happen again. And these are the 3 things that we're going to do to make sure it never happens again. And that was a letter. Also, you'd say, what would happen? What if it happens again? And it did. Then they write another letter. We want to apologize. This will never happen. And this is item 4, 5, and 6 that we're going to do so it'll never happen again. So the end result is that they end up taking, let's say, if it takes a 3rd letter, they'll write another letter. Here's 7, 8, 9. By the end of it, they've actually taken 9 action steps to resolve that issue for that company. And that's all what the bosses wanted. He just wanted action related to solving it. Obviously, it was going to usually get solved within the 1st letter. But it gives you the ability to come back and say, I'm still working on this process. I apologize. I'm moving from a position of strength. I'm working from dignity. And I understand breakdowns happen, and this is how I solve them. So every company needs to have a process, needs to be involved in the conversation of breakdown. The next conversation is conversation for acknowledgement. Everyone needs to know how to acknowledge other people. Everyone needs to know how to praise other people. In fact, you could actually praise a company into success. That it's surprising. You could praise it into its success. There have been stories where things have been just negative, and just the bosses, the way he treated the employees felt motivated, came around and turned the company around. And so this is about acknowledging and praising, recognizing, thanking the people you work with, your peers. And so what we do is we have a process. It's called a VS-CAR. It's the V is for victorious praise. We acknowledge it. We let them know, wow, this was amazing what you did. The S, we recognize their strengths. The C is recognize their character traits. The A is acknowledge the work that they've done, and the R is recognize their loyalty to the company. And so we try to implement this recognition, this praise. I have to tell you, you want to increase, thank a person. You want to increase, thank a client. You want to move forward and just build a bridge to someone, praise them. Praise them. So this is a conversation. You definitely have to have an ability to. I'm not the best person to acknowledge other people. I never needed a pat on the back. I never needed that. And so that's how many drivers are. We don't need a pat on the back, but you have to be good at a conversation of acknowledgement if you want to keep those good employees. That's why on Friday, that's our acknowledgement day. Friday at 3:30, all the team comes together, and I look for ways all the week that I could acknowledge them. I look for ways all the week that I could praise them. And then you'll see that in the federal government. They have a past performance evaluation, right? They call them CPARs. And you get a CPAR. That's a good old boy. That's a good job there. Everyone likes those. So praise is part of business. And so if you learn this conversation for acknowledgement, you will definitely increase. It's a key to increase in your company. So the next conversation is about the person. It's called the conversation of wholeness. This is a deep conversation. This is a conversation where you're not judgmental of what's going on, that you have active listening skills. It's a conversation that's looking at the person from a holistic standpoint. And obviously people may differ in their beliefs, but compassion is always needed with another person. This conversation for wholeness is a conversation where you actually, it's not a type of, let's say in a business setting or in an office. It's more a conversation where you're having a cup of coffee with someone and you're getting down to like some deep levels, deep, concerns, where they are, what their future looks like. The question is like, why am I here on earth? Why was I created for this? Why is this? Those are the deeper questions. Obviously, some of us may not be even skilled even how to answer it, but we could all have a listening ear. One thing I always say with people, I don't understand how you feel, but I care about you for a person. That's the one thing I always say. Because if someone shares with me, there's a loved one that died, or they're in the hospital for something, or their family members in the hospital, something like that, I can't even imagine what they feel. I can't put myself in that place, right? Even though I may have had a similar experience, I can't say, I feel you, I feel the same. No, the answer is, you don't really feel the same. So what I basically say is that, you know what? I don't know how you feel, but I really care about you. I really care about you as a person. I'm here to support you. If there's anything I could help you with, please let me know. And this is an amazing conversation. It's not the conversation that you have to start out with. It's a conversation that you work your way up. You build trust with the person where you can then have that type of conversation. But that's the ultimate goal. Conversation for wholeness. It's there to help everyone. Everyone wants to be at peace, have joy, love, those kind of things, and you could be a part of that. Especially as a business owner, you're a key part of helping people in their wholeness. You provide all the structure, you provide the pay, the health benefits, all those kind of things. You help them in many other realms. But in this regard, I realize the strong companies, they have a focus toward that wholeness. Let's say it doesn't happen in a small business. I learned from myself, from when I worked at a major oil company, that they were having conversations with wholeness with me through their SOP program. Those kind of things, they provided the support for the whole person. And that's something that you have to have a conversation. No matter how small or how big, you have to have a conversation for it. So these are the 7 conversations that have helped me with my business. Hopefully it'll help yours. If you enjoy this content, follow for more.